This morning we have some very important people on stage who are involved in world-changing documentary films and funding those films as well. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what SNS is doing, what FIRE is behind to help these documentary filmmakers and the documentaries themselves go forward and create world change. If you guys have all noticed, we've been talking about ever since 2003, 10 years ago, how we've evolved. 4 years ago, we started talking about world-changing documentaries, and we showed The Cove, and Luisa Hoyos was with us for the first time, and our audience said, how can we do something about this? How can we create world change? And the BBC said, can we take this to Taiji? What do we do? How do we stop the dolphins from being slaughtered? And we realized that we had this global membership of world-changing people that are passionate and that really do care about this. So now this year, we're announcing that we are having the FIRE Featured Films website, where we will show on our website films that we think the world should see, films that you should go to and click on and show your family, show your friends, in ways that you can support them as well. So after you see these films, whether they're about the environment or they're about education or healthcare, anything that's really critical, we have vetted and have the best films that will be on our website for you to take a look at. And we'll show you also how you can support the work. After The Cove, we showed Climate Refugees, with Stephen Nimeth was here. The Last Mountain, Tim Disney was here. And then now Chasing Ice with James Baylog last night. And every year we get more and more support from our members saying, what can we do? How can we create the change? So instead of what we think, normally when I used to think was when I see the movie, oh, that was a great movie, it moved me, and then I went out and had lunch with my friends. That's not really what happens, is when I go to Sundance and I see a film, that's not the end of it. That means that that person put all of their money into that film, and it was lucky enough to get into Sundance, but that's just part of it. It needs funding to be finished as a film, to be sold. And if it's not sold, it needs more money to be able to be finished totally, to be able to get into the right distribution hands to be sold. Or not to be sold, just to be shown. And what happens after that is, what about the work behind the film? James Baylog, his photography work. That needs funding. So all of us here can support the world-changing documentaries, and we should. I'm honored to introduce our FIRE Film panel.
Thank you. So good morning, everybody. My name's Geraldine White-Dreyfus, and I run a film fund called Impact Partners, and we invest in social impact documentaries because we believe that they are a tool in a donor's toolbox to align and amplify their own personal philanthropic missions. We also work with corporations and high net worth individuals, and we've financed over 35 documentary films. And what we are going to do today is really talk about the impact of documentary films, how it is changing, how it's finding audiences, but how under-leveraged and under-capitalized it still is. It really is it's in the very beginning stages of being able to find its audience. Part of that is because journalism has completely changed, and part of it is because distribution and digital platforms are changing and accelerating, and we need smart people to help us think about how we aggregate this content and get it out in the world in more strategic ways. Anyway, what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up by showing we curated this panel very carefully. We picked two filmmakers to bring here today, Chris Payne and Peter Bick, that have been sort of in the space of looking at technology and innovation and how it is changing the world, both to inspire people, educate people, and give people kind of permission to be more emboldened. And all of you that are working in these companies are kind of outrageous in your thinking and have invented things. And so we wanted to sort of acknowledge your spirit by choosing Chris and his film Revenge of the Electric Car, and Peter Bick with Carbon Nation. So we're going to start with Chris just setting up his story with the electric car, and show you a clip, and then talk to Peter and go around the.
Great. We made Who Killed the Electric Car almost in 2005, 2006, so almost 10 years ago, it feels like. And in response to, like, why does the system shut down innovation sometimes? When great innovative ideas come up against vested interests in industry and in government and something, it's very hard to get traction. And I was disappointed about the GM destroying their EV1 car, which I'd been driving for 5 years. So I wanted to make a film about how the system fails sometimes. And at the conclusion of that project, a couple things happened. Oil prices started to jack up in 2008, and a lot of the people that were like the biggest skeptics of electric cars started to talk about it again. So I thought, I have the entree into the auto companies. They don't like me particularly well, but how about letting us back in, and we'll tell the story of this technology starting again. So we picked 4 very different companies. Actually, we started with about 10. And we narrowed it down to 4 that represented 4 different kinds of entrepreneurship to give people the sense of the things that do work about our society, where capitalism and innovative, forward-thinking leadership that like goes on at this conference moves things forward. So this is a 2-minute trailer for Revenge of the Electric Car, which came out last year and theatrically and just came out on DVD.
And just recently on public television on Earth Day, right?
Yeah.
This was just recently broadcast on public television as well, right?
Yeah, we had on Earth Day, the film was released last Earth Day, and this Earth Day it had its premiere on ITVS. We had about 2 million viewers in 97% of their markets, which for a documentary is really good. So we were very happy about that because the first film, it took a long time, as we were talking about yesterday, to get kind of some traction and a long tail.
Great. And ITVS is public television, for those of you who don't know the lingo. Okay, so let's look at the trailer.
This is the most secure location that we could find in the building. You notice we have plenty of security down here.
There's a degree of excitement around electric vehicles we hadn't seen before.
But somebody's got to be the first one out there.
We need a lot of people trying a lot of different things, and then we see what emerges.
It's a race. It's a total race.
Until we see every car on the road being electric, we will not stop.
Oh, Elon's going to lose his shirt. Elon's going to get crushed.
God damn it, we got to get these cars out.
Things keep coming along from people outside the car business, and they all fall on their butts.
You didn't get the message. Give us the cars that we want.
I got the flood of emails saying, you sold out to the oil companies and you've killed my grandchildren. I hope you rot in hell.
They have based their whole company strategy on it. If it fails, there might not be a Nissan.
You need to predict the future, prepare for it. If it happens, we'll be ready.
These are people who are not going to wait around to have the solution delivered to them.
I want to show the world that it's really possible.
This is the future, and it's attainable.
Yeah, we started with that music as kind of a joke, and then we started editing that trailer, and we went, no, this is, we got to get off fossil fuels. Let's make it big. So.
It's a great film.
That's wonderful. Any like particular stories that stand out that might have had an impact that you've seen either from a consumer point of view or audience point of view or policy point of view as a result of making the film?
Well, I think all of us can kind of speak to the relationship we have with audiences. After you can raise the money to make these films, which takes a long time, what's the relationship? And our first film, we got more into the argument of like, okay, why do we need electric cars? Why are fossil fuels so bad, et cetera? And I think as storytellers, you begin to realize that what propels things forward are character. And all the films that we worked on have very strong characters. And they'll tell the story, and then people will find the issue. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the learning process on this film.
That's great. Thank you so much. So Peter Byck has made a film called Carbon Nation that's really looked at companies and solutions to our carbon footprint and has a dream of creating an endowment to be able to continue to document innovations and make them available in webisodes or in short content or in a series, be a serial entrepreneur, documenter of entrepreneurship, and he's going to show you a clip of a company that he found particularly innovative and has amused audiences. So.
Yeah, this clip you're going to see from the film is a fellow named Bernie Carl who's up in Alaska. And all I can say is within 30 seconds of being on the phone with this guy, I knew he was going to be in the movie. So, and he really brings a perspective that we found we wanted, but we just didn't know we'd find so clearly. So let's watch the clip and we can talk more about it.
Alaska has more geothermal energy than all the states put together. But yet Chena Hot Springs is the first geothermal power plant in the state of Alaska. Now this power plant is making power off of water that's not as hot as McDonald's coffee.
We developed lower temperature technology, so you don't have to go after 300 or 400 degree water or steam.
This is working. We're doing it. I mean, the lights are on right now geothermally. Now we're going to enter the largest ice structure in the world to be up all summer. Now Forbes magazine voted this the dumbest business idea of the year. Mr. Forbes can kiss my ass. This entire structure is kept cold geothermally. It cost me about $12 a day to refrigerate this place. If you did it on diesel fuel standard, it would be $750 a day. It's the cheapest thing going. Our electricity was costing us 30 cents a kW. Right now, we're at 5 cents a kW. In 3 to 4 years, we'll be 1 penny per kilowatt hour. We'll have the cheapest energy in the state of Alaska. People say, where do you stand on global warming? Do I think man is causing global warming? I think that we add to it. Do I think we're causing it? No. But that doesn't make any difference. I want clean water and I want clean air. And that's so simple.
Yeah, Bernie's a character. He's one of 15 kids, and 5 of his brothers have muscular dystrophy, and it's just he's an amazing character. I could have made a whole movie just on him. But he's really, I think, the hook to how we're going to move forward. There are a lot of people who, for one reason or another, aren't buying that humans are causing climate change, but they're already on board on everything else. And so as a country, we're being told we're polarized, but we're not. I've been on the road for 2 years, like you say, a relationship with the audience. And there's skeptics that are dragged to every screening, and then afterwards they say they want the film shown in every school in their community. Yeah. Because it's finding the common ground that I think is the only way we move forward.
Yeah, and what I love about Peter's work is that it doesn't have to be a film about carbon, the carbon footprint. It's about solutions, and it's about innovation, and it's about possibilities, and it's about helping people see, who America is. I mean, this is who we are as a country. We innovate and we create things, and that story is getting lost in our narrative and asphyxiated, I think, by global markets and confusions around, China versus the United States. I mean, it's crazy. We need to own this space, and it's sort of like if you be it, you can see it. Or if you see it, you can be it. And we need to see more of these kinds of stories. And so we really invite you to talk to Peter about partnership or documenting your companies or other companies that you're investing in to kind of keep this story going. So thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Sure.
So you had the privilege and honor of seeing all of James's film last night, Chasing Ice. And we don't have the data yet to look at the impact that the movie's going to have, but maybe you can talk a little bit about why, what you hope, the kinds of markets that you hope to reach, and what you want to do with your research, and the kind of impact that you think that can have in science and policy. And
well, almost. Am I on here?
Yeah.
Almost right from the beginning, I was astounded at some of the audience response I was getting among people, in many cases, who I assumed were very well aware of what we were documenting. That includes senior officials at the National Science Foundation, at the Office of Polar Programs, who are the ones writing tens of millions of dollars a year in grants money to fund polar research. And I gave a couple of seminars at the NSF and had people coming up to me saying, well, this is so refreshing to actually see what all of these white papers mean.
Right.
We look at this on the proposals all the time, and we had no idea what this actually looks like and feels like. Thank you for showing us. That was one. The more obvious points of lack of knowledge, to put it mildly, are in schools, in general lay people who are not in the sciences, and you often get a lot of response from those folks. But the one that I found most appealing, I've actually had a number of guys who have been in the oil and gas business who've come up to me after shows and thanked me for taking them from being skeptics to understanding. I don't like to use the word believers because I don't think this is a question of belief versus something else. I don't even want the word belief to come into this because this is about thinking.
Right.
In any case, an elderly man came up to me at a museum in Florida after a talk, and he had on Madras pants and a canary yellow jacket, and he looked very distinguished, and he just come off a golf course, and he said, "Congratulations, you just made a believer out of me, and you have no idea why that should mean so much to you." And I said, "No, I guess I don't." He said, "Well, I was the former head of exploration for Texaco, and I thought that this global warming thing was a bunch of BS, and now I understand it." And he's come to a number of my shows in Florida now, and we're great friends, and we were just talking a couple months ago about fracking, and he told me all about why fracking is actually a bad idea, and it's another story. So what we're hoping to do is, audience member by audience member, shift opinions, and also we're trying to hit not just lay audiences, but we're trying to hit government leaders. I've spent a lot of time trying to get this material in front of senior officials in the U.S. as well as abroad. There's actually 2 copies of the film on the desk of President Obama right now. They've come in from 2 different directions. I'm not sure that the president, based on what I saw in the newspaper this morning, anybody read the front page of the Times about drilling off the North Shore of Alaska? He's already signed up for that, and I'm not sure it's going to make much difference if the president sees this. But nevertheless, we can try and influence him. I've been in front of Capitol Hill legislators 3 times, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the White House, various other White House offices, and in Europe as well, with a lot of high-level science people and kind of mid-level government leaders. So we're trying to put it out in all these different forums, and you do your best to tell the story. And we're moving into the Extreme Ice Survey I didn't mention this last night, but we're docking it under a new mothership called the Earth Vision Trust. So Extreme Ice Survey will continue on as a project within Earth Vision Trust. And our expressed objective of Earth Vision Trust is to touch 1 billion people over the next 10 years with a story of how humans are impacting and reshaping the world in this era of anthropogenic change. Right. So 1 billion, I don't know. Can we do it? We're already up in a couple 100 million at least, so I think we can probably do 1 billion.
Yeah, that's great. Well, just so for those of you who aren't familiar with how the movie world works, so this film premiered at Sundance. It won a Distinguished Directing Award. It got bought by Nat Geo as its broadcast partner, and then inked a theatrical deal with a company called Oscilloscope, which is a very small distributor. There are very few companies that are doing theatrical distribution for documentaries because they don't make money, and they have been really just systematically going out of business in the last 4 or 5 years. So there's a real problem in the box office market, in the real estate market for documentary films. This particular film is one of the few films that absolutely must be seen in a large theater. It's always better when any of these films can be seen in a large theater, but as you saw last night, just the experience of calving and the scale of what is at stake here is incumbent upon us to find a way for this film to be in big theaters. Our film fund is actually looking at doing what's called a P&A raise, where we could bring some additional P&A dollars to the film so that more people will know about it, so that more people will come. I will be shocked if this film doesn't get nominated for an Academy Award. Absolutely shocked. So Louis, many of you know through The Cove, and I think that's what's interesting about both James and Louis, is they're both looking at this very big moral question of extinction. I mean, James is documenting the world as it will never be again. Those glaciers are never going to come back. And there's something that's of incredible value for that. And we don't have a government that invests in that. And so there has to be somebody that thinks bigger than nations to think about the work that both James and Louis are doing. And I'd love Louis to just tell you about his next film, but also just take a moment and talk about some of the things that have happened as a result of the Cove.
We were just happy. My goal when I started the movie was just to get into Sundance. You know, we kind of overshot our mark a little bit, but you know, won over 100 awards around the world. But more importantly, it hasn't stopped the slaughter of dolphins and porpoises in Japan, but we're down to less than half of what it was before the film started. But a lot of that meat was being force-fed to Japanese school children, and that's stopped completely. So there's tens of thousands of kids across Japan that don't know our name, don't know there's a movie out, but we know that their parents had heard that dolphin meat is extremely toxic with mercury, and that's not. You know, so as far as affecting change, it's been really, really effective. I mean, James and I both worked for National Geographic for a long time, a couple decades, and I've never seen the impact of a film is absolutely incredible. I mean, I worked for them for 20 years. I've never seen anybody look at a copy of the magazine in the wild, like on a plane or something, but you go to an audience and you have people laughing, cheering, crying, and then asking what they can do to help afterwards.
Right.
And I thought this is the most powerful, you know, medium in the world. I call it a weapon of mass construction. And you know, so it made me think about the next film. Actually, when I started the Cove, I was working on a film on mass extinction of species caused by mankind. I think it's the biggest issue that we're all facing, whether we know it or not. You know, everything on the planet, we don't even know how many species there are. We're losing them by, you know, about 30,000 species per year, and it's all because of us. There's been 5 major extinctions in the history of the planet, but we're going through a 6th one right now caused by mankind because the way we use our lights, the way we drive around. Are we going to show a clip?
Yeah, well, no, the Cove or your?
No, that little carbon clip, or if we're not set up for it, I can just.
Oh, did you? Do we have Louis' clip? I didn't know about that.
It's okay. We don't have to do it.
No, if it's set up, let's do it.
It's fine.
Okay.
But so we're tackling a big issue, and the only way I think to get at it is get people's hearts.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking to James Cameron about executive producing the film. He said the only way you can get people to move the needle is to get people's heartstrings. And the way we're looking at it is through looking at the loss of species. Right. You know, the idea that that we're all talking about increasing wealth, and you know, we're thinking about how we can improve the world, but in the meantime, half the species on the planet might go extinct by the end of the century. And I think it's not just creating the awareness about it, but what can we do to stop it? You know, this is a very powerful group of people in this room, but what I'm trying to do is get people out on their busy schedules to make a life change, to realize that the burning of I run the Oceanic Preservation Society, and we're acidifying the ocean. We're cooking plankton right now. Plankton is the base of the food chain. And you think, well, big deal, plankton. You might not even eat fish, but plankton is responsible for 2 out of every 3 breaths you take. Say that once again. 2 out of every 3 breaths that you're taking right now is owed to plankton. And we're losing it at the rate of 1% a year because of the burning of fossil fuels. We're cooking plankton. We're cooking our oxygen supply. And just about every scientist I know in the world knows this, but they can't get the word out there. I was talking to a woman that runs a family foundation. They spent $500 million, not a million, $500 million on a white paper over a decade trying to get the information out about big ocean issues. They can't get traction because you get a big sheaf of paper, you jump it onto a congressman's desk, what's he going to do with it? I go to Congress and they say, well, you know, we need our constituents to write us, otherwise it's not an issue. And I said, well, how do we do that? And he said, well, write a letter to your editor. I'm like, well, I know how to do something a little bit more powerful than that. And so my goal in this next film is to get 1 billion people around the world to see this film, know about the issues, see the YouTube clips, and you know, have a mass mailing of emails to congressmen, to thought leaders around the world, so make this something that everybody cares about, because it's the most important issue that there is.
Yeah.
But we lose the oceans. I mean, I don't care. Lady Gaga, your finances, your grandchildren, it's all connected to plankton. It's connected to the way we get. There is no Lady Gaga without plankton, folks. There's no financial future without plankton. So, but it's hard to make a cute, cuddly thing about plankton, a movie about plankton. So we focus on the big, charismatic megafauna and try to draw the links.
That's great. Well, I'll make sure that we show that clip in the afternoon session. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. I didn't know you had that. So this is a great segue to close with a clip that is a film that that Strategic News Service has adopted as its work in progress film. It's a film by Chris Jordan, who's here in the audience with us today, called Midway. He's an extraordinary photographer, another common denominator here of the people on stage. I think it segues into this idea of how do you get to the heart, how do you touch people and bring us all the way to plankton and oceans. And so let's wrap up with Chris's Midway and continue the conversation throughout the rest of the day.
The reason that we came back to Midway was to go further into this environmental tragedy that we witnessed the first time we came here. And similarly to the last trip, as we observed the birds dying this time and opening their stomachs and seeing all the plastic, we also were always presented with a juxtaposition of this incredibly beautiful natural paradise out here. It's hard to imagine a place in the world that has more wildlife, that's more abundant. It's like the Galapagos. And to see those two things in juxtaposition and hold them, that's really the reason that we came. And it's part of the ongoing process of this project, where we're going to fully turn toward that beauty and come back and watch the mating dances and then watch the babies hatching out of the eggs. So it's this process of kind of slowly moving from fully into the tragedy and beginning to turn toward beauty as a way of holding those two things together.
Chris, I'd love you to just stand and acknowledge your work. Chris is back here. This is Chris Jordan from Seattle. Beautiful. This is a first-time filmmaker. This is his first film, and this trailer has now had over 2 million downloads in a very short amount of time. So we really expect this to go viral, and people are seeing these images, and really trying to take a look, or a huge double take. And again, how do we take that momentum and put it into the finishing of the production of this film, and then get it out in the ways that it needs and deserves to do? These are the questions that we ask ourselves, and we come for your guidance. Are we out of time? Yes, okay. So thank you very much. I hope you'll seek out these extraordinary storytellers for the rest of the day, and enjoy the rest of your sessions. Thank you.